Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley, and we're going to talk about trauma, fascia, or fascia, however you want to say it, and self-regulation. So we're going to make some references to an incredible book called The Body Keeps the Score. And I hope one day I can interview this author. It's by Bessel or Bessel van der Kolk. And it's so good because it talks about trauma that's stored in the body and how this trauma could lead to fight or flight. And when you can use therapies and techniques such as EMDR, somatic therapies, exercises, and breath work that can help you to release the trauma. So we're going to go through a few examples from the book, but we're also going to talk about fascia as a sensory organ, how it actually is an organ system and it should not be neglected. And we're going to talk about the difference between muscle memory and fascial memory. And I know we're going to be a little bit more intricate, but for you guys listening out there, I want you to see how amazing your body is and how your body can actually receive information not only through the eyes, ears, nose, through the mouth, but also through the fascial system, which is incredible. There's an old book that I have called Anatomy Trains. And Anatomy Trains is a book that shows how fascia or fascia, I'm going to keep intertwining them, tomato, and how it actually intertwines throughout your skin. And if you took your muscles away, your skin away, you took your arteries, your veins, your nerves, your ligaments, and all you did was leave the fascia, you would have almost a complete representation of yourself. You could recognize it was you. So we're going to dive into this. We're going to talk about some neurofascial pathways, and hopefully I can cover this all within this one podcast. But I've got some notes here written down, and I love going through notes because it keeps me on track, keeps me from, diverting too much. Let's talk about, first, the book. I want you guys to pick up this book called The Body Keeps the Score. He does an amazing job talking about the fascial system and how the fascia, is able to hold on to trauma. I really enjoy it because in my practice, it's been over 20 years, I got into doing emotion therapy, and you may have heard my story almost kind of like by accident. And it happened on a young patient of mine. He had an issue. Let's go fast forward. He had an issue with his ear, and he fell out of a tree and injured his neck. All I'm going to say is when I was doing my scans with frequency therapies, biofeedback examination, Chinese medicine techniques, I found out there had to be an emotion or psychological, physiological, emotional connection that was keeping that injury in place, associated with bacteria and parasites. When we worked on the old emotion that was trapped in his body that came from his parents, his ear and his neck healed. Which is really interesting to me because I am not the guy that goes, oh, I knew all this and I found it out. No. If you're hearing me and you can see my face, I'm telling you, I was like, I don't know about this. I know I can come on the camera and be, a bit more exuberant. But if you guys sort of knew me, I'm a little bit quiet at times. If I see you out in public, I'm giving you a hug. I'm a hugger. But I can be a little quiet. But when I see things like this, I was really, really astounded. So I dove into techniques even further, like NET, neuroemotional technique, EFT, tapping. Because I want us to see that your body basically will hold memory of a trauma just like you would hold the memory of a bad sprained ankle. That changes it, doesn't it? Hear that Nashville coming out, doesn't it? Doesn't it? If you have a sprained ankle, your brain makes a recording of the sprained ankle and tells the muscles around your ankles, your knee, your thigh, and your hips to accommodate for that injury. So it'd say, Chris, don't step on that ankle in this manner because you're going to prevent it from healing. That makes sense. What happens when you have an emotion in your brain? Your body is told by the brain to make all these different contortions in your fascial system to accommodate and take pressure off your body, your organs, your meridian system in such a way that you're trying to accommodate and heal the emotions that up in the traumatic area. Now, granted, you could have trauma not only in your brain, but you could have trauma in the body. Physical, sexual, mental, verbal abuse that is being basically accommodated to, adapted to. So if you had somebody verbally abusing you all your life and you heard this person's voice, your brain makes pathways to help you handle the voice, the sound, the intonation of that person. And anytime you hear somebody else talk like that, what do? Ugh. I don't like that person's voice, that new person's voice. I don't like the way that sounds. So your body will react. Your ears will want to close up. Your neck will tighten up. You will actually round your shoulders so you can get into a protective mode. Does that sound like you? Sounds like that to me when I was going through that. Even in school. I didn't have horrible verbal abuse, but I remember people's voices that I felt that were not the right people to be around. And I remember having those types of reactions. So I get adamant about it because I want you never to doubt whenever you have some form of physical response to an emotional trauma, your body physiologically will change. And I know all of you know that. But some people could not believe that your gums could hurt. Why does my teeth hurt when I'm around this person? Because you know what? I'm not going to go into the details of it. But if you had some form of traumatic event that happened to you that concerned you eating with somebody, would that affect your teeth? It sure would. So don't doubt yourself. Investigate. And this is what we're going to do today. I think I just spent a lot of time on that, but I wanted you guys to get the reality of it. So the author was a psychiatrist to the Vietnam veterans in the 70s. So one of the veterans he treated would dive to the ground when he heard a noise that resembled something that happened in the war. Also, I just had a friend who went to Colorado to get this amazing somatic therapy done. And I don't know every angle of it, but this is a really important story he told me. He said he was in the clinician's room when one of the veterans was there. He didn't know the guy's story. He was trying to work with this therapist. And happenstance, one of the lights in the office had the same light and color as what the veteran experienced during a bombing in Vietnam. The color was the same, and his friends died. And my friend said that guy broke down right there in the clinic, like literally was shuddering. Because his body, his sensory input was like, that's the same light that happened when my friends got killed. And that saddens my heart. And he responded. Why? That's the only way his body knew how to respond. Same effect, right? So there's lights that could cause it. There's noises. And this particular person, when he found out that he fell to the ground, the doctor, Kolk, he said, I know that there's trauma trapped in the body and it's disrupting the flow of energy and the flow of neurology and the nerves, and literally it's disrupting the flow of chi in the body. And you know what's really amazing is that chi, if we study, you hear me talk about it before, that electrical signals of chi are traveling through. If you can watch me with my little doll, I always have my Chinese medicine doll. I need to name my doll. I don't know. But anyway, through the fascia, through the connective tissue, there are these small, tiny tubes, like little garden hoses. Can you imagine itty-bitty garden hoses that are running through your fascial system, and they're just flowing chi all day? And if you got injured in a particular area, you have trauma stored in, let's say, your shoulder, does that water hose or that little garden hose get kinked up? Yes. And that's where the injuries start. So this disruption in energy is happening occurring in the body from that loud noise. And so what the author was stating was that energy, that the fascia is connected to the, basically, I hope I don't butcher this, insular cortex and the limbic system. Now, I know the limbic system. I study it. I love it. I'm a nerd that way. But one of the things about the insular cortex and the limbic system is that they're all connected to the internal mind or internal brain, which is connected to the higher mind. But it helps you process your emotions. And so the fascia, literally, I want you guys to know this. If you look at a representation of the cells in your body, fascia, and I keep using it interchangeably, I'm sorry guys, but just bear with me. Fascia has these small tendrils, like little vines that grow out of the fascia, where the chi and the meridians are. These little tubes, these little garden hose are meridians. And those little tendrils can reach into the deep portions of your cells, and they've been shown that these tendrils connect to your DNA. So your fascia has these like little vines that go into your cells, go all the way into your DNA. So your fascia is connected to your DNA. So it may be somebody injuring you on the shoulder, but your DNA records it. Do you guys follow me? So your emotions are traveling basically through this same system. Now, if you have this fascia connecting into the internal cells, and you have a certain type of trauma in that area, in the related area, the fascia can get very tight, it can get hardened, it can create dysregulation, it can cause inflammation, it can cause chronic pain. Our emotions, yes, are connected to the fascia. The fascia is connected to the DNA. So whatever's happened to you emotionally is going through your physiology and going to show itself structurally. That's what I'm saying. My brother, not saying I don't like my brother, love my brother, but he used to box. And he used to take me to the boxing gym with him. And my brother would always hit me. Like, that's what he did. He was just, he's a bigger brother. He wasn't a bad guy. He would just always want to box with me. And if you guys know me, I'm taller and thinner. I don't really want to get hit a lot. I don't have a lot of meat on my bones. Okay. But he'd always hit me, and I got tougher and I could hit back. But I noticed that when my brother was around, I would flinch. I would tighten up. Like literally, I would crawl my arms. Why did I do that? Because my mind, my brain, the higher mind and my brain picked up that what if he tries to hit me? It was stored in my fascia. My fascia went to my DNA. My DNA said there's a habit coming up. There is a program running that he's going to hit me. And so my DNA reacts because it was in the fascial system. I hope that makes sense. It's gotten so used to being hit, the fascia, the connective tissue, and those little vines went into my cells and told my cells, hey, anytime your brother's around, he's going to hit you. So my cells listen, and then that tells my muscles and everything else to do what? Adapt, contract, get ready, contract up. Now, I know I get nerded out about it, but I love that because I'm telling you this. What happens if you're around people at your school or people in your life that are bullies? Maybe not just physical abuse, maybe verbal abuse, or maybe you had a parent that was verbally abusive, or you were raised in a very tough home life relationship. I just want you to know, whether it's physical or verbal, if you hear something, you see something, you get hit. Unfortunately, I'm saying this with all seriousness, that it's traveling through your fascial system. And your fascial system is about communication, and it's going deep into those cells, and those cells are changing. This is why it's crazy, because what happens is your DNA has to contort and change itself to handle the stress. and the trauma, which means could it change your genetic load? Could it change your genetic expression? And from the popular studies and what we've seen through psychology and psychiatry, the answer is yes. So what you experience in your trauma, they say, can change your genetic expression. It can literally change the shape and the length of your chromosomes. That's very tough for me to take, because that means that if you've suffered from a trauma all your life, think of how much your chromosomes had to adapt that length of time. And now it's time for healing. And now it's time for you to actually say, no, I got to stop this part and start living this part. And that sounds kind of corny, but I want you guys that are listening to say, like, give yourself plenty of grace to change, because that's a long time to adapt to something that happened that for that long length of time. If you think of fascia, if it encodes emotional energetic imprints, remember, it's serving as basically a storage bank. It's like a hard drive. It's like a hard drive hooked up to your computer or an external hard drive. And it's recording all this information. And the hardest part is if it's in the memory bank, that the author explains, that if it's in an external hard drive, like you're storing it away, and you don't clean it out, it's always going to pull from your battery power. I hope that makes sense, right? It's like it's always going to be there pulling on your energy. So that's why it'd be so important that if you did deep body work, or if you did qigong or tai chi or boxing or some type of movement, and have you ever had a deep emotional release when you've done some kind of exercise or some type of therapy? I've had individuals that have literally said that they've done a certain type of somatic reflex movement or a dance, where they literally were in the same positions or movements of when a trauma happened, and they had this huge emotional response. It's because the fascia stored the memory of that issue, and when you start to move and unwind, they call it fascial unwind. You guys heard that? Like you unwind your spine. What's it doing? It's stretching the fascia. Picture that with me. Stretching it, untwisting it. Have you ever seen saran wrap when you twist it really tight and it gets crinkled up? That's what happens to your fascia. Exactly. And fascia is not some just stiff sheath. It can be in the injury site. It can be very stiff and hardened, but you got to think of it as very malleable, liquefied proteins and sugars that act like a spider web that are always contorting and changing shape. So you stretch it and you move it, and all that electricity that's stuck in that area starts to get freed up, and the electrical signals start flowing through the injury site. After you do your movements, you start doing deep body work, that electricity is flowing through it, allowing the energy to disperse everywhere it needs to go. And the crazy thing is, and then it'll start going into the DNA. Your DNA has an exit ramp for you to unload all that stored energy. And then people go, I remembered what happened when I was 5. I know there's a long explanation, but that's what he's talking about in the book. That's what I see in the office like every day. Like some people get on the table and I'll start working on them and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm crying. And the simple fact is that we are all masters of adaptation. We really are. We're masters of adaptation, and we've learned how to adapt so well because it's the only way we can self-regulate. And the thing that I get concerned about with my patients is that where a person stores their trauma, whether it be in your shoulder, in your hips, or in a particular organ, it's either going to drain your battery pack of essential energy slowly without you knowing it or recognizing it, no fault of your own, or B, it's going to turn into an eventual physical manifestation of a problem within that organ or within that joint. So I want you to make sure that you take note, because if, for instance, I'll use myself as an example. If I always have an injury on my left shoulder every time I get stressed, literally it gets weak, my left shoulder. Why? I had a partial dislocation, but what it is my gallbladder. My gallbladder meridian runs, the little pathway runs right through my neck, down to that shoulder. Anytime I feel overwhelmed or I have too many things going on at one time with too many directions, that's an emotion of the gallbladder. My gallbladder gets fired up and it gets frustrated. And for some reason, it locks up into my left shoulder. I believe it has to do with the physiological action of the shoulder. The fascia is meant to do what? Hold things up. Push things out. That's the shoulder. And if I feel that I get overwhelmed, it may feel like I have too much weight on my shoulders. Does that make sense? And that's how I feel when I broke it down. That's exactly how I feel. I literally feel like I have too much weight on my shoulders. And I know out there, you guys are like, yes, that's exactly what happens to me. My knee hurts. Why? Because you may be around people who are not flexible or bendable. Or you may feel like you can't propel yourself forward. You feel stuck. You can't walk away. There's some truth to it. Now, one thing I really thought was interesting too, he's talking about the muscle memory and the fascial memories. He's talking about the fascial communicates directly with your vagus nerve. And I want you guys to see that. Vagus nerve stimulation, I should have brought mine in from the car, but I have one called a CES Ultra. Maybe, Christy, if we can put that on the link. It's called a CES Ultra. But CES Ultra has to do with, you've seen these vagal nerve stimulators. You can get them on Amazon. But you have this vagus nerve 10, or cranial nerve 10, and that vagus nerve, you guys can imagine, exits your neck. And I don't want to get too fancy with all the terminology, but it comes down, and basically in a nutshell, it goes down through your neck, and it will connect to your heart, your lungs, your abdomen. It connects to your kidneys. It connects to almost every single organ, almost, okay? But what it's doing is it's giving you a little volume level, and it's saying, okay, these organs I want you to stay relaxed. You need to stay in the parasympathetic space. Stay relaxed. Rest and eat and relax. There's all these really fancy lines about the vagus nerve, and I don't remember them. I wish I did. But it's basically like when you eat and you relax, or when you go to sleep, or you start to rest, you engage your parasympathetics to stay relaxed. But when you go into trauma, you go into a sympathetic. So you have the sympathetic nervous system. Now, your trauma is going to dysregulate your parasympathetic. So think about parachute. You're on a parachute and you're just flowing. If you're in sympathetic mode, it means you're feeling everything. I sympathize with everything I'm feeling. There's too much going on. So you're in that sympathetic, I got to get this done tomorrow. I got to do this in the morning. What if I don't make enough money? You see how fast I'm talking? Which happens to your brain, right? So your sympathetic nervous system gets overwhelmed because we don't mean to. We turn down the volume of our parasympathetic, our relaxation, and then we increase the volume of our sympathetic. Decrease, higher. Now, the crazy thing is that when we increase sympathetic, we go into hypervigilance and disassociation. We either get too weary and too skittish, or we get so overwhelmed in our nervous system that our body has to disassociate and just release all the things that cause tension, and then we almost become robotic. And so whenever you have trauma built up in a system, as we just talked about, those are the things that can happen on a much grander scale simply because your trauma is held in the whole body, of course, but heavily within your fascial system. Now, one way he talks about is that you want to use the trauma, or you want to use all the Qigong, all the Tai Chi, all the tapping, all the techniques we're about to talk about, and herbs to help you unwind the knots in the fascial system. So you have to get all the knots out of the system so that the Qi can flow through it. And that Qi is moving towards the organs, it's running through your muscles. And one of the things I really love is that since it's going down to your DNA, it's about communicating. Your body will learn how to stay interconnected and communicate with itself. And that's the key, because if you disassociate and you start to get too overwhelmed, organs will start to get very, very tight, and they'll start operating on their own instead of acting as a community. So you can heal. You can get some of the trauma out. There's a few acupuncture points that you guys can look into, which I really, really love because I use them pretty much every day. And there's one right here on the wrist, and I can't really know if you can see it. I know you're on the camera angle, but right here on the wrist. Now, if you, on the palm side of your hand, right on where the palm meets the wrist. Now, this is on the side of the hand that is going up towards your pinky. Okay? So if you can see me on camera, a heart 7 is right here, right underneath this palm area right there. That's heart 7. And now if you take your thumb and you go on that knobby bone right here, like go down from your pinky, go down the pinky, go down to the palm, right underneath the palm where the palm starts to meet the wrist, you start to rub into that area, and that area right there is called a heart 7. Heart 7. And right beside it, it's I wish I could show you this really well on camera, but if you go a little bit up into the wrist, right in the middle of the wrist, on the palmar side, the palm side, right in the middle of the wrist, underneath the palm, is called pericardium 6. So you have heart 7, pericardium 6, and liver 3, which is an acupuncture point between your big toe and your second toe, right in the web. These 3 points have been shown to help release fascial tension. And the pericardium in the heart helps relax the heart. It brings balance to the heart area. The liver 3 helps this liver regulate, which is responsible for fascia and ligaments and tendons. The liver is responsible for that. So if you go down and reach between your big toe and your second toe and it's really tender, you know your liver's pretty tired. So those 3 are amazing points to use acupressure on or tap. Now, when you are rubbing these points, do them 2 to 3 times a day, 30 to 40 seconds at a time, maybe a minute, and you do them on both sides. And there's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I believe it's by Carol Truman. I read it back in school. It's an amazing book. She gives you great messages to talk and speak over your life. But when you are rubbing those points, if you know something is hurting you or burdening you, she teaches that you can say things of, even though I have the feelings of resentment and anger and frustration towards such and such because they did this to me. And you don't have to say it all out loud, but just have this memory. I completely love, respect, and cherish myself, and I have the ability to heal. And what you're doing is when you're starting to open up that chi flow in the fascial system and you're getting the heart to feel a little bit more encouraged, a little bit more warmth, you're sending a frequency, a vibration of healing throughout your fascial system. And it's just going through the system. And literally when you show love to yourself, when you start to have those feelings, you'll start to unwind even deeper. So you have to send the telephone call out of healing energy, frequency, and taking the time to do the tapping. And I love EFT tapping. So if you want to know more about that, we're going to have that in show notes. But it's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And you've seen this on some of my posts. But Dr. Mercola has a really good site. But there's really one's called EMO, like emotionalemofree.com. Really great teachers. So when you start to use these points, you can use good affirmations. But again, please never neglect stretching your fascia, doing Qigong, Tai Chi, dance, certain yoga moves or formats, certain types of stretches. I love a good lymph therapist along with fascial stretching. There's some fascial deep workers. It's not to me like get the deepest massage ever. To me, it's getting the fascia moved in the correct posture. There are some healers out there that can put their hands on you and it'll feel where all the fascia is congealed and tightened, and they can move it. This is the gentlest movement. I have a friend of mine. She'd probably get mad at me if she's so busy she can't take any more people. But here in Franklin, she would put her hands on me, and this is the exact truth. I would literally lay on her table, guys, and I don't ever fall asleep during the session usually. And she would just be talking with me and just doing these light motions. She was strong. Don't get me wrong. But she would move my neck and she could feel the tension and she would unwind it. And literally I'd fall asleep and I'd wake myself up snoring because I was on the table. And I'd be like, she goes, oh yeah, you were asleep for 45 minutes on the average when I went and got it. And I never sleep. Why? Because she got the chi to flow through the fascial system just by unwinding my neck, which affected the rest of my body. So if you find a good fascial massage therapist or a fascial worker, you need to stick with them. All right. Here are a few herbs that I wrote down. Okay. We want to do Rehmannia. It's Rehmannia. Rehmannia. Licorice root. And Schisandra. So we have Rehmannia, licorice root, and Schisandra. Now, Schisandra is known to actually enhance and give clarity to emotional traumas. And then Rehmannia really helps nourish the yin aspect of your blood, which basically, when you have yin energy and it's dysregulated, you don't feel safe. So Rehmannia helps your yin, that warm feeling of cuddling. I feel like somebody's giving me a hug. I feel like somebody's loving on me. That's yin. You need that nourish, Rehmannia. And licorice root kind of harmonizes everything. It actually causes all other herbs to work together. It's like the middleman. That's what licorice root is. Hey, dude, come on, hang out with my other friend here. And that's what it does. And I love Schisandra because it also cleans out the liver. Now, you don't have to use all three of these, but I think these are very good adaptogenic herbs, and I also want you to remember that they are really good adaptogenic mushrooms. I love lion's mane, and I like using reishi. They're very good with emotional upset, especially within the kidneys. Lion's mane or reishi, R-E-I-S-H-I. So I know this is a lot of information, guys. I've been yapping your ear off, but I wanted you guys to know the effect and the efficacy of fascial work. There's a really good friend of mine. Stop Chasing Pain. At Stop Chasing Pain. Dr. Perry. He's he's like a mentor. He's so cool. Just strong, big dude, but he gives great videos. But he has it called the Big Six, and he tells you how to release the lymph flow, which then helps release the fascia that helps the whole body relax. You'll be amazed about what your body will express and what your brain and mind will bring up to remembrance when you give your body the permission to let it go. So you have to unwind it to give it permission. Just think about it this way. If I took the same walkway, the same path, let's say I walked to my school every single day. I ate the same meal. I waved at the same neighbor every single time I walked by there. And you just said, well, one day I'm going to take a different route. I'm going to go this way. But you kept taking the same route every day. Would your body believe you? I don't think it would. But if you just force yourself to take a right instead of left and do a different path, you retrain your brain to create that neural network. We call that neuroplasticity. I know you guys have heard of that before. So when you start doing movements and stretches and stuff, you're creating new networks of nerves. And if you create new networks of nerves and you have different pathways, you're wanting to go down a new path. It sounds corny, but you're going down a new path. Your body will believe you. It's like saying, I actually am doing this. I believe him now. I believe now. He's actually doing something different. It does take hard work, but you can make the changes. I know I've had to make changes. I had to make changes, huge changes. And I'm going to tell you personally, I've had to make big changes the last 3 months. And if you know me, I'm stubborn like a mule. I do not like to change. You just leave me alone and I'll do my own thing. Okay, guys, I hope you like this kind of information. And if you did, please let me know. Send me some comments on the comment section. We'll have the link to the book. And it may be up in my store online. So I'm going to make sure my producer, we have that book up on that. We'll put the link down there so you can purchase it. It's a really great read, and it's going to give you insight to things you've known. This is what I'm saying. You will look at it and go, I knew that had to give me a problem. It's really cool. All right. Love y'all. And so if you like and subscribe, if you know somebody else that has trapped emotions in their fascia, they have chronic body pain because of their emotions, I want you to send this to them. I want you to check out at Stop Chasing Pain. And guys, hit the bell so every time a new podcast comes up, you get an indicator, little bell ring. And other thing is, like, we like to take these types of podcasts and put them onto the live Q&A for the membership. I do a live Q&A. Usually I'm doing every Wednesday night, but I'm saying weekly we have it. I rarely miss a week, but what I love to do is to be able to talk with you. It's about community. It's about us talking face to face. So I have the opportunity, like, you hear this and you jump on the membership, you join the membership, you can go, hey, I get to talk to Dr. Motley about it. Literally, we just talk face to face, all of us in this big community, and there's like-minded, lovely people. All right, guys. Until the next time, I hope you have a blessed day, and from all of us here at Ancient Health Podcast, enjoy it.